Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of Show Business, Miss Sophie Tucker.
They called her the last of the Red Hot Mamas. She began her career in the 1900s in the heyday of American vaudeville and was still singing 60 years later.
I wanna say hello, I wanna see you smile, I wanna hold you in my arms again. I wanna do the little things we used to do before. Honey, I can't live without you anymore. I won't be satisfied till you're by my side. I'm yearning for the moment when I'll say hello, I'll see you smile, I'll hold you in my arms again.
Sophie Tucker started out in New York, singing for her supper. This was the time when the big city was bursting with show business activity, when Tin Pan Alley and its army of song pluggers was the center of the music publishing business. The year was 1906, a time when so many of America's great vaudeville stars were beginning their careers. Many of them were from Russian Jewish parentage. There was Al Jolson, Eddie Cantor, Irving Berlin, and of course, Sophie herself. She was literally born on the road out of Russia. Her mother was traveling by wagon on her way to join her husband in America. The date was the 13th of January, 1884. Along the way from Russia to the United States, Sophie's father, whose name was Kalish, had met an Italian called Charles Abuzza, and they traveled together until Abuzza died. Mr. Kalish, who was fearful that the Russian authorities might find him, took over the dead man's papers. To quote Sophie, "Don't ask me what the United States immigration officials made of an Italian who couldn't speak anything but Russian and Yiddish, but it was as Charles Abuzza that Papa got into the United States of America." By the early 1900s, the Abuzza family were running their own cafe in Hartford, Connecticut. The children had to work long hours helping their parents. Because Sophie had to finish kitchen chores before going to school, she sometimes fell asleep in cars. By the time she was 10, she was helping out as a waitress and singing to the customers. It was not an easy life, as Sophie pointed out in a BBC interview many years later.
I was a slavey, I worked hard, we had a little restaurant, and I used to serve, wash the dishes and scrub the floors, and oh dear boy, it was tough.
And sometimes you used to entertain the customers.
I always entertained them. I always tried to get some pennies and nickels.
What gave you this idea of being an entertainer?
In the restaurant when the performers would come in
I see.
and dine at our place, I knew they were performers, and I don't know, I just sneaked around and would sing around and show off and learned how.
When did you decide you were going to be a professional entertainer?
When I ran away from home in 1906
To New York.
to New York City.
Did you find work fairly easily?
Oh, no. Oh, no. I walked the streets, starved, would go into restaurants, wash the dishes, and sing for the customers. No. Nothing was easy.
Soon after her graduation from school, Sophie eloped with a young man named Louis Tuck, but the marriage was not successful, and she was left with a son and no means of support. She did, however, adopt his name, adding an ER to the Tuck. Several years of hard slogging in vaudeville followed, and for a while she appeared in blackface, gaining a following as a coon shouter, singing the popular songs of the day. Her first regular job was in the German Village, a big old-fashioned beer garden, singing for $15 a week. In 1909, stardom seemed to be hers when she was asked to appear in the Ziegfeld Follies. She was a hit from the very first, but the star of the show, Nora Bayes, objected to sharing the stage and the applause with an unknown, and Sophie lost the job. She returned to the family cafe to work, but later joined the William Morris Agency and began touring the vaudeville circuit of American music halls. She was billed as the Mary Garden of ragtime after the famous opera singer of the day. In 1911, she approached the Edison Recording Company and, for a fee of $1,000, recorded 10 cylinders.
I was disgusted with that restaurant. I was disgusted that I had to wash and keep my mother's feet. She used to suffer with these terrible calluses, and I had to rub them. And I vowed that if ever I got money enough, I would take her out of that restaurant.
Two sweethearts courted happily for quite a while, this simple life of country folk. The laddie told the girlie he must go away. On her little heart and grief most broke. Well, she said, you know I love you, honey. I love you, honey, best of all. So, baby, a girlie soul. These words he had her said. Some of these days, oh, you miss me, honey. Some of these days, you're gonna be so lonely. You're gonna miss my hugging. You're gonna miss my kisses. You're gonna miss me, honey, when I'm far away. I feel so lonely, just for you only. You know, honey, I let you have your way. And when you leave me, I know will grieve me. You miss your little daddy some of these days.
When Sophie heard that early recording, she cried, "My God, I sound like a foghorn." Some of these days remained with her till she died. She once estimated that she'd sung it 35,000 times. During this very early part of her career, Sophie began to use the double entendre songs, which became closely identified with her style. They were considered to be rather hot, and occasionally theatre managers asked her to cut them out of the act. In her autobiography, she wrote, "I've never sung a single song in my life on purpose to shock anyone. My hot numbers are all, if you will notice, written around something that is real in the lives of millions of people. They are songs that mean something to everybody who hears them."
Brothers and sisters, hallelujah. Here's Sister Tucker, gonna do some preaching to ya. My lesson for today ain't from the Bible. It's for the gals whose men ain't too reliable. Now when you learn that your man ain't exactly been true, here's a little something that you must not do. Never let the same dog bite you twice. Don't let no man two-time you. Never pet or play with a dog that bit you once. And a man who will cheat will always repeat. Never give him a second chance to get into the game of love with loaded dice. I've been around and I have found that there's just two kind of men. Those who never do and those who do it again and again. So after he's been treated sweet and nice, girls, listen, never let the same dog bite you twice. I'm very fond of dogs. Men I don't exactly hate. Both have their very good points, which I do not underrate. Of course, I don't say that they're alike. Don't get me wrong, I only claim that when they start to wag their tails, they're very much the same. Oh, a mistake is something any man can make. But that lipstick smear behind his ear, baby, that ain't no mistake. The Bible says to forgive and forget. The trouble is the wife always forgives. But the husband, he never forgets where that red-hot mama lives. So if you've got a dog who bites you when you pet him, telephone the dog catcher to come right away and to get him. Same thing with the husband if you find he's not a true one. Put your plunging neckline on. Go out and get yourself a new one. Never let him have a second chance. The first time you catch him cheating should suffice. Why, you put a muzzle on a dog because the law says you should. But you can't put a muzzle on a man where it'll do much good. So you listen to me, girl. Take a friendly bit of advice and never let the same dog bite you twice.
Sophie first saw her name in lights in 1910 outside a theatre in Atlantic City. She was a headliner at last. While in Chicago a year later, she accepted a part in a show called Louisiana Lou. Now, at last, her earnings were high, but her love of gambling took its toll. Whenever she was in financial difficulties, she would sign for a road tour and wipe out the debts. In August 1914, Sophie attained the pinnacle of vaudeville success, a date at the Palace in New York and a salary of $1,000 a week. When jazz music became the craze, she changed her title to the Queen of Jazz and organized a band called Sophie Tucker's 5 Kings of Syncopation. Here's a recording made at that time. Sophie is accompanied by an unknown group, but you can detect her Dixieland style.
They call him Trifling Sam. He lives in Birmingham, way down in Alabama. The other night, he had a fight with his gal named Mandy Brim. She plainly stated she was aggravated as she shouted out to him, "Aggravating, Papa, don't you try to two-time me." I said, "Two-time me, aggravating, Papa, treat me kind, don't let me be. I mean, let me be. Listen, while I get you told, you stop messing around, sweet jelly rolls. If you go out setting with a high brown baby, I'll smack you down, and I don't mean maybe. Aggravating, Papa, I'll do anything you say. Yes, sir, anything you say. When you do your strutting round my way. Now, Papa, treat me pretty, be nice and sweet, 'cause I possess a booty for that don't repeat. Aggravating, Papa, don't you try to two-time me." As you can be, 'cause I can beat you doing what you're doing me. Aggravating, Papa, don't you try to two-time me.
In 1921, Sophie disbanded the 5 Kings of Syncopation and in their place hired a young pianist named Ted Shapiro, who was to remain with her as an accompanist right up till the time of her death. Her London debut took place at the Hippodrome Theatre in 1922 in the revue Round in 50. One of her co-stars was the great George Robey, who was no stranger himself to stage vulgarity. Sophie was an immediate hit with the British. As one critic summed up the response with unaccustomed enthusiasm, "A big, fat, blonde genius with a dynamic personality and amazing vitality took the audience by storm last night. Her name is Sophie Tucker." A triumphant return to the Palace Theatre in New York was followed by a brief but unsuccessful venture into Hollywood's silent films. She sailed for England again in August 1925 to fulfill an engagement at London's fashionable Kit Kat Club. One of her most requested songs was My Yiddische Mama, which she sang in English and in Yiddish.
Wie ich steh du in Tracht, kommt mir vor mein alte Mama. Nicht kein abgepackte Jenke, und nicht kein ausgeputzte Dame. Nur eine Mutter von Verzeiten, von Großzurs angebeugt. Mit einer kuschere jüdische Haar und mit viel verwähnte Augen. In derselbe kleine Rümpjes, wie sie is alt und grü geworden, sitzt sie und Näsen chullend von der lang vergangene Jahr. Wenn der Haus ist voll gewesen mit dem Klang von Kinderstimmes, dem Kitchen hat geschmeckt, der Schabbaskickel mit dem Zinn. Ihr mögt mir glauben, als bei uns hat nicht gefällt das alles, aber doch bei uns die Kinder hat gekleckt auf alles. Das Stickelbräut von Meul pflegt sie uns freiwillig geben, und für ihre Kinder wollte sie doch ein weggelegtem Leben. Allein geräumt, allein genäht, allein gewaschen und gewickelt, gearbeitet bei Tag, gearbeitet bei Nacht und immer ein Kind gewickelt. Und das heißt eine jüdische Mama. Und wie glücklich seid ihr Menschen, was ihr hat noch eure Mamas, dem Ewigsten darf ihr wünschen. Und mit ihr Schädel schämt sich nicht, und halt ihr nicht behalten, ihr darf ihr Küchen ihre Hände und ihre Säuteier halten. Ihr braucht beten Gott für ihr Gesinnt und für ihr Leben. Von alles Gutes und Reichkeit kann auch eine Fülle geben. Millionen Taler, Diamanten, Häuser, größere Schäne, aber eine Sache auf der Welt, das gibt auch Gott nicht mehr wie eine. A jüdische Mama, sie macht doch sie die ganze Welt. A jüdische Mama, oi weh, wie bitter, wenn sie fällt. Ihr darf doch danken Gott, was ihr hat ihr noch bei sich. Ihr wisst nicht, wie treurig sie wird, wenn sie geht weg zu dir. In Wasser und Feuer, wollt sie gelaufen für ihr Kind. Nicht halten ihr Teier, das ist gewiss der größte Sinn. Oi, wie glücklich und reich ist der Mensch, was hat als a schöne Madonna geschenkt von Gott. Nur ein altes jüdische Mama, Mama, man.
Sophie discovered that British audiences, unlike the Americans, loved a good, bawdy joke. The Americans loved to hear cracks about the president and other national figures, but were embarrassed about jokes on the facts of life. The British, on the other hand, would not accept songs about the royal family, but didn't mind the odd bit on sex in a routine.
Say, I've got a sweetie who talks too much, and he's getting himself in Dutch. He talks his way in, and he'll talk his way out of my heart. Every time that he calls on me, we hide away from my family, but our activity ends before we start. He keeps talking of this and that, instead of loving, he wants to chat, my orational, conversational man. There's not a story he tells to me that has ever happened on land or sea, this damnational, non-sensational man. He'll talk and talk and talk and talk, his mouth is going every second. The damn fool keeps on chinning when he really should be necking. He'll be talking of politics when he should be thinking of parlor tricks. My orational, conversational man. And then he tells me all about gapery, doesn't practice a thing with me. My orational, conversational man. And if I'm cold and I want to pet, a red-hot lecture is the best I can get from this jabbering, always blabbering man. Spouting phrases fills that man with satisfaction, but this flaming mama craves a tiny little bit of action. He's full of gas and I'm full of heat. God knows what will happen when they meet. My orational, conversational man. little kiss, I will be waiting. But what's the use? He just keeps right on debating. We will sit on the sofa, say on rainy nights, but what's the good of a sofa to a man who recites my orational, conversational man?
Conversational Man, one of the many songs written for Sophie by Ted Shapiro. Sophie's stay in England was cut short by the news of the illness of her mother. She broke her contract to return home, but during the voyage she was notified of her mother's death. It was 3 months before she was able to sing again. Eventually she returned to vaudeville, and at another appearance at the Dirty Drafty Palace, her billing was as the last of the Red Hot Mamas, a title that was to stay with her for life.
Sheep, knackers, and jelly beans, lend me your ear. So you think you've been petted, don't be silly, forget it. Steps, flappers, and baby vans, pour me good tears. What do they know concerning love? Come to me for your burning love. 'Cause I'm the last of the red hot mamas. They've all cooled down but me. Flapper vamps, say what do they know? Come get your hot stuff from this volcano. I'm an overheater, try and beat it. Hotsy-totsy, hottentot. Now it may be snowy, but when I get going, oh baby, I'm hot. You can keep your collegiate charmers, their loving isn't worth a dime. Away up in Alaska, where the natives freeze, an Eskimo left my hut in his BVDs. 'Cause I'm the last of the red hot mamas, I'm getting hotter all the time. Said I'm the last of the red hot mamas, they've all cooled down but me. I don't pet and only neck 'em. No, sir, I'm one mama who loves to wreck 'em. I can make 'em sizzle, make 'em fry 'em frizzle, and if you want to know the truth, say I can warm the cold ones and give the old ones back their flaming youth. Oh, I was born in the hot Bahamas. Right now I'm in love and crime. Others pet and kiss and hug and don't know what it's all about. Say, when I kiss men, they feel they've had their tonsils taken out. 'Cause I'm the last of the red hot mamas. I'm getting hotter all the time.
In April 1927, Sophie cut 2 record sides with the jazz group Miff Mole's Molars. It was a job she enjoyed. She was quoted as saying, "For the first time, my records sound like Tucker."
Now won't you listen, honey, while I say, how could you tell me that you're going away? Don't say that we must part. Don't break my aching heart. You know I loved you truly for many years. I loved you night and day. How can you leave me? Can't you see my tears? Listen while I say, after you've gone and left me crying, after you've gone, there's no denying. You'll feel blue, you'll feel sad, you'll miss the bestest pal you've ever had. There'll come a time, now don't forget it, there'll come a time when you'll regret it. Someday, when you grow lonely, your heart will break like mine, and you'll want me only after you've gone away. After you've gone and left me crying, after you've gone, there's no denying. You'll feel blue, you'll feel sad, you'll miss the bestest pal you've ever had. There'll come a time, now don't forget it, there'll come a time when you'll regret it. Oh, babe, think what you're doing. You know my love for you will drive me to ruin. After you've gone away.
This other song, recorded with Miff Mole's molars, rather gives the impression that France had adopted the permissive society more than half a century ago.
French are bad. They all declare that over there the French are going mad. They have a reputation of being very gay. I just got back from Paris, and I just want to say, when they go parley-vous and parley-vous, this for me, that's for you, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. When they go ooh-la-la-la-la-la-la on the boulevard, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. They shake us the hand, they shake us the feet, they roll the eyes and kiss good say right on the street. And even though the Irish and the Dutch say it don't amount to much, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. All of our fashions come from gay Paris, and if they come above the knee, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. And if they give the world a new design to prove a lady has a spine, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. They shorten them here, they shorten them there, and if her name is Teddy, they make Teddy Bear. If they prefer to see their women dressed with more or less of less and less, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. When they put on a show and it's a hit, no one tries to censor it, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. And when a book is selling at its best, it isn't stopped, it's not suppressed, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. Whenever they're dry, for brandy or rye, to get it, they don't have to give up their right eye. And when we brag about our liberty, and they laugh at you and you and you and me, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong. Policemen with embroidery on their pants. And when they start to sing the Marseillaise, they sing it 40 different ways. 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong.
Sophie Tucker with Miff Mole's molars in 1927. Pretty classy lineup with Sophie and the Miff Mole gang. Red Nichols was on trumpet, Miff Mole himself on trombone, of course. Jimmy Dorsey was the clarinet and alto player. Ted Shapiro was imported into the group to accompany on piano. Eddie Lang was on guitar, and the other two were Joe Tarter, who played the brass bass, and Vic Burton was the drummer. In this period, the late 20s, Sophie made several further tours of England and the continent, and on one of these recorded this rare duet with Ted Shapiro.
That's how I feel today. My goodness, I never felt this way. Teddy, you should see who fell for me. You want to meet a real treat, you should see us walking down the street. Is he my boyfriend? Howdy, Hey, I'm proud to say he's my boyfriend now.
Are you his girlfriend?
Howdy, Well, if I must tell, I'm his girlfriend now.
Was he hard getting?
Hard getting? Not for me.
Does he do petting?
Oh, that's something you would like to see, eh? Well, Teddy, you know my weakness?
Yes?
Mm-hmm. He's found it out. Now I'm lost, but damn the cost, I'm his girlfriend now.
But is he really your boyfriend?
Howdy, Well, I fell, and he's my boyfriend now. And I met him in July. By August, we kissed, and oh...
By September, what did he do?
You're too young to know. And he's got a system.
A system?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, is it nice?
Say, every time I kiss him, he's got to sit right on a cake of ice. And mind you, he's not good looking, not a beauty prize, but it takes more than good looks to satisfy a girl my size. Hot cat, you're looking at his only girlfriend now.
In 1929, Sophie Tucker made her first talking film. It was called Honky Tonk. But motion picture work wasn't really to her liking. She once said, "That is not Tucker on the screen." And she frankly admitted that she had neither beauty nor glamour to offer the movies. During her long singing career, she made a number of versions of her theme song, Some of These Days. This one, made in 1927, remained unissued, probably because she actually makes a mistake and reverses two of the lines.
Life is a book, so they say, of records on each page. I turned my first leaf when I went upon the stage. The road was rough and it was tough, especially for a girl alone. Heartache, sighing, nights of crying. For my folks at home, why I remember way back when I was a young Connecticut lass. I was just as green as grass, had lots of nerve, no class. And the men I met then, they were some sweet bunch. Said a star they'd make me. Right away they tried to date me, but I had a Yiddish hunch. Then there came a day for a job with pay. I wondered if I'd make it. Only 20 beans, but when you're broke it seems a fortune, and you take it. And then there came along one fine song. I hope you'll never forget to remember me when you hear. Some of these days you'll be so lonely. Some of these days you'll miss me, honey. You'll miss my hugging. You're gonna miss my kissing. You're gonna miss me, honey, when I'm far away. I feel so lonely for you only, 'cause you know, honey, you've had your way. And when you leave me, you know it's gonna grieve me. Gonna miss your big fat mama, your mama. Some of these days, you'll miss me, honey. Some of these days, you're gonna be so lonely. You'll miss my hugging. You're gonna miss my kissing. You're gonna miss me, honey, when I'm far away. That I feel so lonely for you only, 'cause you know, honey, you've had your way. And when you leave me, you know it's gonna grieve me. Gonna miss your big fat mama, your mama. These days.
Did you notice what she did? First time around, those lines, "You'll miss me, honey," and "You'll feel so lonely," got transposed. But the old trooper didn't stop. One doesn't normally associate Sophie Tucker with blues singing, but she did record at least one blues song in London in 1930. Here is this rare 78 recording.
Down through the lowlands, trudging along, with eyes up to heaven and a heart full of song. Lordy, can't you see I'm washing the blues from my soul? I hit all the high spots, found they were vain. To lose that false pleasure was really to gain. Lordy, can't you see I'm washing the blues from my soul? I lifted my hope to the highest and found a word friendly and true. Now right where you are, you can find it. You only need the right point of view. I put off the old ways, took on the new. The clouds are divided, the light shining through. Lordy, can't you see I'm washing the blues from my soul? The things that are worthwhile. The bluebird has paid me a call. The gray days I've been through have taught me this life is not so bad after all. 'Cause I'm through with pretending I'm what I don't feel. I've gone back to nature where everything's real. Lordy, can't you see I'm washing the blues from my soul?
The Sophie Tucker version of the blues, her own style, like everything she did. The early 30s saw the death of vaudeville, and it was a painful episode for the old-timers who had to step aside for the new motion picture idols. Although Sophie's career did suffer, she continued to be reasonably active. In 1934, she returned to England and gave a command performance for King George V and Queen Mary. His Majesty is reported to have taken it in stride when Sophie greeted him with a cheery, "Hiya, kid." If she did, it's a wonder she didn't end up in the Tower of London. On a return visit to England in 1936, she made a number of recordings, including Sam Coslow's "If You Can't Sing It, You'll Have to Swing It." For Britain, she anglicised the locale by having the incident happening in the Royal Albert Hall, and also identified the conductor as Mr. Toscanini rather than Mr. Paganini.
The maestro took bow after bow. He said, my dear friend, I have given my all. I'm sorry, it's all over now. When from the gallery, way up high, there suddenly came this mournful cry. Mr. Toscanini, please play my rhapsody. And if you cannot play it, won't you sing it? And if you can't sing it, you've simply got to swing it. I said swing it. I mean swing it. Ding dong, ding it. Oh, Mr. Toscanini, we breathlessly await your masterful baton. Go on and sling it. And if you can't sing it, you've simply got to swing it. I said swing it. Hi-de-hi, hey-de-hey. We've heard your repertoire, and at the final bar, we greet you with wild applause. But what a great ovation, your interpretation of wah, 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 wah would cause. Mr. Toscanini, please don't be a meanie. Want to have you up your sleeve, come on and spring it. And if you can't swing it, you've simply got to swing it. Swing it for me.
Composer Jack Yellen was responsible for very many of Sophie's best-known songs, including My Yiddische Mama, I'm the Last of the Red Hot Mamas, and this song, which almost became her second signature tune.
I disagree. I say it isn't so. And I'm one gal who ought to know. I started young and I'm still going strong. But I've learned as I've gone along that life begins at 40. That's when love and living start to become a gentle art. A woman who's been careful finds that's when she's in her prime. And a good man when he's 40 knows just how to take his time. Conservative or sporty, it's not until you're 40 that you learn the how and why and the what and when. In the 20s and the 30s, you want your love in large amounts. But after you reach 40, it's the quality that counts. Yes, life begins at 40. And I've just begun to live all over again. You see, the sweetest things in life grow sweeter as the years roll on. Like the music from a violin that has been well played upon. And the sweetest smoke is from a mellow broken in old pipe. And the sweetest tasting peach is one that's zaftig, round, and ripe. In the 20s and the 30s, you're just an amateur. But after you reach 40, that's when you become a connoisseur. Then it isn't grab and get it, and a straight line for the door. You're not hasty. You're tasty. You enjoy things so much more. For instance, a novice gulps his brandy down. He doesn't understand. Observe a connoisseur, the way he holds it in his hand. How he strokes the glass, fondles it, warms it as he should, smacks his lips, slowly sips. Oh, you taste good. Life begins at 40. Then it isn't hit and run, and you find it much more fun. You romance a girl of 20, and it costs you all your dough. But one of 40 thanks you. She hates to see you go. And girls of 20, all they want are big men with strong physiques. I don't say that it's bad, but you do get tired of those damn Greeks. Life begins at 40, and I'm just living all over again.
In 1937, Sophie returned to Hollywood to try again to make it in films. She signed a contract with MGM and appeared in Broadway Melody of 1938 with Eleanor Powell, Robert Taylor, and Judy Garland. In 1938, she was elected president of the American Federation of Actors, the first woman to hold the office. Sophie had known Irving Berlin since her very early days in New York. In August of 1938, she appeared on an all-star radio tribute to her old friend. This coincided with the release of the film on Berlin's life, Alexander's Ragtime Band.
Just a minute. As I live and breathe, folks, it's Sophie Tucker. Sophie!
Now, when you boys get through pinning medals on each other, maybe you listen to somebody who was raised on Berlin's song. Do you think you're going away back? Now, if you promise not to try to figure out how old I am, I'll tell you about the time when Irving Berlin was a singing waiter down in Chinatown. He used to write all of the songs on his cup. And one night I remember how he came over to my table, so shyly, so timidly, and said, "Sophie, darling, here's a new one that I've just written. And I want you to sing it tonight in your cafe." And that song, ladies and gentlemen, was one of my biggest successes, the International Rag. London dropped its dignity. Yeah. So has France and Germany. Yeah. All hands are dancing to a raggedy melody full of originality.
Sing it, folks.
The folks who live in sunny Spain.
Give it up.
Dance to a strain they call the Spanish tango.
Baby.
Dukes and lords, the Russian czars, men who own their motor cars, throw up their shoulders to that raggedy melody full of originality. Italian opera singers have learned to snap their fingers.
Give it on, baby.
The world goes round to the sound of the international.
International.
The international ride.
During World War II, Sophie did a couple of Broadway shows and also entertained the troops. For a further look at this time of her life, we'll turn to part of what is a distressingly schmaltzy recording entitled My Dream, subtitled A Dramatic and Musical Masterpiece of Sophie Tucker's Half-Century in Show Business.
The roar of cannon, bursting shell, and the world is turned into hell.
Where is she now? Look, there she goes to entertain our G.I. Joes in hospitals and training camps, where she tells the nation's chicks and vamps.
Listen to me, girls. If he's good enough to fight for his country, then he shouldn't have to fight for his love. If you know that he's going to be fighting far across the sea, then he shouldn't have to fight with you to get you on his knee. Ah, let's be good girls to the boys who are marching to keep Old Glory waving up above. Why, in 2 wars I've helped the boys who bravely faced the enemy's guns. What I did for the fathers, I can still do for the sons. If he's good enough to fight for his country, then he shouldn't have to fight for his love.
Naughty old Soph. During the 1950s, Sophie continued her nightclub work. She did occasional television appearances. And in 1957, she played a cameo role with Frank Sinatra in his movie The Joker is Wild. She produced a number of LP records, so in her lifetime she spanned the whole recording era, from cylinders through 78s to microgroove. Here's a chorus of a song which she has, as she often did have, some good advice to young women of the time.
Make him say please. Make him say thanks. Or don't give him nothing at all. When Papa comes home and he wants to be petted, you see that he talks pretty to Mama, or he ain't gonna get it. Make him treat you like gentlemen do when they call on a glamorous doll. Why, the least that he can do is to be nice and polite. After all, he isn't spending a thing but the night. So make him say please. Make him say thanks. or don't give him nothing at all.
In June 1962, Sophie Tucker visited Australia to star in a variety show on the Tivoli circuit. Quite an undertaking for a woman of 78. She was interviewed for the ABC by a good young interviewer we had in those days, Anne Pickburn. Anne was determined not to take the same old approach.
Miss Tucker, have you been asked everything?
Everything? What do you... Well, what do you mean, everything?
Well, I mean, in interviews and things, I guess you've been absolutely played with them over the years. Have you gotten round to speaking about absolutely everything?
Well, I try to bring up and make things sound newsy if I can. You go ahead and ask the question, see if I can turn them around and twist them around so they'll sound a little different for you.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever have time to stop and think?
Well, I'm practically thinking all day because I pile up from the time I rise in the morning until I get to bed. So many things pile up that I have to be on the ball every minute, so my mind is going and thinking way ahead of time.
You're known as the last of the Red Hot Mamas. Pardon my ignorance, but could you tell me what exactly they mean by a Red Hot Mama or Mama?
Well, you see, originally it was a song. It was a song called I'm the Last of the Red Hot Mamas, and it came out in 1925 during the flapper era we had in the States. And I had just returned from London, and all the flappers were in little red flat shoes and red stockings and sweaters and things, and I knew that I'd never look good in one of those things, so we decided I'd be the Red Hot Mama instead of that.
Did you think when you started out in show business that you'd ever go on with it as long as this?
I had no idea. When I reached 30, I thought I was getting old. When I got to 40, I was frightened. When I got to 50, I was double frightened. And after 50, I took my time and kept right on going.
I wanna say hello, I wanna see you smile, I wanna hold you in my arms again. I wanna do the little things we used to do before. Honey, I can't live without you anymore. I won't be satisfied till you're by my side. I'm yearning for the moment when I'll say hello, I'll see you smile, I'll hold you in my arms again.
Sophie was singing right up till the time of her death, playing a season at London's Talk of the Town, the site of her London debut in 1922. When she died in February 1966, show business lost one of its most colourful personalities. As one newspaper put it, the last of the Red Hot Mamas has gone. We'll leave it to Sophie herself to sum up the magic of her success.
Once they love you, they've loved you forever.
I'm just a girl, a wonderful girl. I'm the sweetest one in town. You can search for miles around, and not one like me can be found. I've got a smile, a wonderful smile, and a certain little way. And every time the boys get near me, they look at me and say, Red Hot Mama, you're the one we need. Red Hot Mama, some charmer, yes indeed. They say that I should be in the follies, hot tamales. They say that I've got a pair of eyes, just like old Svengali. I confess that I possess the sweetest charms in town. And unless I miss my guess, the boys all follow me around. I could make a music master drop his fiddle, make a bald-headed man part his hair in the middle, 'cause I'm a red hot mama, but I'll have to turn my damper down. I'm the one they need. Red hot mama, some charmer, yes indeed. There's not a model chair that I could a steaming kitten. There's not a Broadway show that I wouldn't fit in. Say I confess that I possess the sweetest songs in town. And unless I miss my guess, the boys all follow me around. I could make a Texas farmer forget his hay. I could make the devil throw his fork away. 'Cause I'm a red-hot mama, just a red-hot mama. But I'll have to turn my damper down.
What a grand old performer Sophie Tucker was. Rob Sharp got that tribute to Sophie together, and Soph was born 100 years ago in 1884. We've got news in brief soon, followed by an hour with the big bands. ABC Radio 1 and 3, Eastern Time is 9 o'clock.